I don't usually like voiceover videos, but there's a bit of a story that needs to be told here. We'd woke up in the morning near the Capitol Reef National Park and left camping on public land there to drive down to the southeastern end of Utah. Utah 95 is one of the most scenic routes, and it was closed at the 115-mile marker, which was a significant commitment, dragging a Jeep with a Class A motorhome. And the only option was this Moki Dugway on 261. The road turns from paved into gravel. My wife and I had disconnected the Jeep and driven from the top to the bottom and then back up. A little recon. There were several sections that I looked at several times, most notably the section about 2/3 of the way down near mile marker 8. So here she is out ahead of me, escorting me. A couple assignments I gave her was to be far enough ahead of me so that I didn't end up head-to-head with a vehicle that forced me to make a long, prolonged backup, and to pull over, let faster traffic around us, and basically just kind of mark the route for me. So we learned of the closure on 95 about Hanksville, and even from Hanksville, the alternative was to drive back to the north and join I-70 and then come back down on the east side of the state of Utah through Moab to the southeast corner of the Four Corners region, basically. So even at that point, to backtrack and go back toward Moab was a significant addition in both mileage and time to our journey. Fortunately, my wife had met a lady in the gas station when we were fueling up for the section of I-95 that doesn't have any services for 100 plus miles. And she called her father, who reassured my wife that he occasionally drags a 50-foot hay trailer up this Moki Dugway with a 20-foot pickup truck, a long wheelbase pickup truck. So that gave me some hope, although that vehicle hinges in the middle, whereas the 40-foot Class A doesn't. Now this is a Thor Venitian. It has quite a bit of tuck, or quite a bit shorter wheelbase than the body length of the vehicle. The wheels, the steering wheels are pretty much underneath the driver's seat, which gives you about 4 foot shorter on the front end, and they're significantly inboard from the rearmost point of the rear. So here my wife has stopped and she sees traffic coming, and once the traffic is cleared, we'll be going again. This video is sped up 8 times. So this was about an hour-long process getting from the top to the bottom in this vehicle. Here's pretty smooth sailing, although the overhanging rocks on the left-hand side could clip the upper part of your motorhome if you're not comfortable driving close to that edge on the right-hand side. And here we come up to the switchback turn number 1. Now, this was one that I had already decided I would probably need to make at least a 3-point turn, and it ended up being a 5-point turn for my comfort. So here I'm stopped, making 100% certain I select reverse before I let my foot off the brake, pulling the wheel opposite, pulling forward, doing the same thing right up to the edge. Actually, a portion of the bumper was dragging in the gravel here, the fiberglass undercombing, and there's 4, and there's enough radius to get out of there. So that was actually the tightest turn. All of the rest of my work was pretty much able to make. I did make one more 3-point turn near the bottom. So another key factor here was, before I even started onto the gravel road, selecting the absolute lowest gear. Now, the digital selectable Allison transmission has a fun little feature where if it's not able to control the vehicle's speed because of the grade, it will just automatically arbitrarily switch to the next highest gear and attempt to do it at that speed. So it was imperative that I kept the vehicle speed at or below 10 miles an hour because on these 10% grade descents, there's just no way to slow down if you get going too fast. And add in the washboard on the road and the gravel surfaces, it really could be a dangerous situation if you get going too fast. Incidentally, the published speed limit for the gravel section from both the bottom and the top is listed as 5 miles an hour. So I think it's pretty realistic to say that most of the time I was going a little bit less than 5 miles an hour. Now here I'm having her go out 2 turns ahead of me so that she can see that nobody's coming, because there's nowhere to pull off between my current position where I'm stopped and where she is. And once she's reassured me that there's nobody coming, I'm able to move down to the point where she is. Now, right here, when I reconned the route, you'll see right here, I'll pause the video, a couple vehicles had drug their rear tires across that gap. And it's about a 400-foot fall from that place down to the roadway below. I can't imagine losing concentration or planning so poorly as to get the tires off the prepared surface here. You are just asking for trouble. So anyways, one thing that made this whole journey a lot nicer was two-way radio communication, and we had walkie-talkies, closed circuit, discrete frequency walkie-talkies, and they actually worked pretty well around some of the rocks. I didn't expect it out of line of sight that they'd be able to communicate, but they actually did. There were a couple times where my wife was out far enough ahead of me that she was actually around the rocks, and I was still able to talk to her, so that was very comforting and reassuring. The lower section here is pretty uneventful until you get to the very last little bit there, the mile marker 8 that I'd previously referenced. We got one more switchback here, and these were a little bit more forgiving than the one at the top. I was able to, well, you'll see. I don't need to do a whole lot of backing up down here to get around the corner. And here I'm letting her get far enough ahead that she's already made the 180-degree turn and out quite a ways to make sure that there's no traffic coming. I just swing far into the oncoming lane and full turn radius, and I'm able to stay on the roadway without having to back up. Another brief pull off to let passing motorists by, and there was a point where these motorcycle guys rode by, and I kind of got the feeling they thought they were pretty cool doing this trail on their Trans-American Trail equipped multi-purpose motorcycles, but I think this fella kind of looked at me sideways there as if I was nuts going down in the 40-foot motorhome. So here again, now I'm letting her get out far enough ahead, and I'm pretty sure this is the tricky part where mile marker 8's coming up, and the real threat here, the problem that I saw was these rocks that jut into the roadway on the right-hand side. I have to be so far to the left to make sure that when I start to turn around these rock points to the right that I don't drag the side of the motorhome on the rocks. And it was tight. That one there was about 1.5 feet clearance. And then this one, when I make the left turn here, I was worried about the big rock that had fallen there, and here I am, of all things, I'm head to head with another motorhome. So this Class C driver, actually, he got the hint when I pulled over here. I need that space that he's parked in, so he finally comes creeping by. I don't think he wanted to pass me on the road because it's pretty much rear view mirror to rear view mirror, and I'm right over tight to the side. But I needed the space where he was, and you'll see why here in a second. So my wife is reaching me by radio right now, and if the dash cam had audio, you'd hear her talking about 2 pickup trucks coming up the roadway. There's number 1, there's number 2, and once he's passed, she gives me the all clear. So I go down to where that Class C motorhome was going to park, and I need every square inch of this real estate to make this right-hand turn without having to back up. So right to the edge, hard right. You can see my left tire is right almost to the edge, and then from here on out it's pretty much smooth sailing, except for the last hairpin turn here, which doesn't have much of a grade change with it. There's plenty of real estate there. It's just that the turning radius didn't work out. So there's my wife going down, and right there, I'm going to need to make one last final 3-point turn. So out to the edge, back up a little, and now we're back on paved road. And I breathed a big sigh of relief, no damage, and pretty much stayed within the legality of it. The signs at the top warn not recommended for RVs, and then there's signs that say overweight and oversized vehicles are prohibited. But according to Florida licensing for my Class A motorhome, it's neither overweight nor oversized. And here we are at the bottom. I'm going to hook the Jeep back up and go eat dinner.